Let me
Okay.
check the audio real quick because we are live now. Wait for my phone to catch up to the stream. A little ridiculous that it doesn't do that. We got a few people in the chat. Thanks for the ad, Domino's. I love you guys. I'm being facetious. I don't love Domino's. And people that are joining right now, you're getting a little off-the-cuff dialogue. Yep, we're good. Okay, so welcome to Alabama Postgame at the voice of college football. I am Zach, here with Christian Ballard from Ballard Sports Media. Talk about Auburn, Alabama. Alabama wins another Iron Bowl, 49-27 over the Tigers. And a game that was, I won't say it was closer than I thought it was going to be because Auburn was never really in it, as we started getting into the third quarter.
Right.
But they fought harder, and I think a lot of us gave them credit for. So, we'll have a lot to talk about with this game. If I sound like horrible, I probably have the flu or something. So I'm sorry about that. But, before we start getting into this game, like and subscribe to the video, share. Let's get a good conversation going in here tonight about this game and about what a crazy day of college football so far. A couple shakeups already have happened.
Yeah.
Run through a couple other things. Join the Voice of College Football call-in show, 11:30 p.m. Thanks, ESPN tab for playing highlights. Call-in show at 11:30 p.m. Eastern time. Mark will talk about all these games and much more not as in depth as we're going to go into here because he's not going to spend an hour or whatever on this game, and then join our Discord and talk college football all the time. Sign up at patreon.com. Just search Mark Rogers TV. So, Christian, I'm going to kind of let you handle hosting duties today. If you need me, obviously I'm here. If I go into a coughing fit, I'm going to mute, but I'm here. So
Okay.
what did you think of today's game? Kind of give your thoughts.
Yeah, well, first off, appreciate once again having me on this week and everyone tuning in. This was rivalry weekend in college football, my favorite weekend of the season. We had a lot of upsets. We had a lot of mismatches and some expected games. But how about the Iron Bowl tonight? I mean, it was kind of what I expected it to be. I mean, Alabama played a good game. I always hope for something close. Of course, we get that at Jordan-Hare, and like we had last year. But Alabama, I mean, it was close for the most part for like the first half of play, but Alabama kind of added on to it as the game went on. But 49-27, Auburn fails to hit bowl eligibility, and Alabama stops them. I think you had Alabama already up 14-7 at the end of one. They outscore Auburn 21-7. They each get a touchdown in the third, and then in the fourth quarter alone, Alabama outscored Auburn 7-6. So there were parts of this game where Alabama did slow down, had some penalties, had some mismatches, and Auburn's defense kind of picked up. But the offense for Auburn, it did not, because Alabama got off to such a big lead early on in the half, in the first half of play. Auburn just didn't have enough answers. They had some answers. They did not have enough answers for what Alabama was doing.
Yeah, Auburn's run game was great, but once they fell down by a few scores, it was going to be tough for them to come back. Ashford's an amazing athlete. We saw that tonight, but he's not a good thrower of the football. And he's got talent. If we got to Iron Bowl next year and he was Auburn's leading rusher or leading receiver, I wouldn't be shocked in the slightest. He's an amazing athlete, but he's just not. 11 for 23, 77 yards. You could go 11 for 23 like J.J. McCarthy did earlier today if you're throwing 60-yard bombs, but he wasn't, only 3.3 yards per attempt. Not very good. It's just not good enough against Alabama. You're not going to be able to move the ball consistently.
Yeah, I would agree.
We'll have a conversation about Pete Golding. I did not think his performance today was very good.
Yeah.
We've talked about it before. If you're here with us last week, or so you didn't do Ole Miss, you had work. But the game before that, I think we agreed. Alabama's probably not going to bring their coordinators back next year. Probably either of them. Bill O'Brien will probably get a job somewhere. I mean, he was one of the names for Nebraska, but of course now that's going to Matt Rule. So
yeah,
Wisconsin's open. West Virginia will probably be open. There's probably some school out there that'll take him because, even as a head coach, he has a track record of success at Penn State. He did an unbelievable job at Penn State with everything that program was going through when he got hired as the head coach. He did a good job for Houston as a coach. He did a fine job for Houston. It's just GM decisions, and who knows how many behind the scenes things were happening there. As far if you know anything about Jack Easterby and some of the things going on with the owner there, allegedly. But he's done a fine job as a head coach, so I think he'll get a job somewhere. Pete Golding, yeah, he's not coming back after today. He's just not.
No, I mean it. Now, I will say this, the term, like, it looks worse or better on paper. I think it did. In some ways, I do think it did look worse on paper. Like, the scoreboard, I don't think indicates how they at least tried to play. I think that you could tell there was an effort, but there were still some penalties and some mismatches and miscues that you look at Pete Golding and you want to shake your head at him like, this is inexcusable.
Yeah, I mean, I have a tweet here. This is some point in the third quarter. Auburn, without a functional passing game, as we talked about with Ashford, only 3.3 yards an attempt. Ran for 10 yards per carry. This is like midway through the third quarter. This tweet was at 5:15. So. Stupid dog. So yeah, I mean, it was 35-14. The game was over at that point. Auburn's not coming back from all the way down like that, but still 10 yards an attempt. If this is a better team, and we'll see what happens in the bowl game. Still, I mean, we've talked about Alabama's chances at the playoff are over. Not necessarily.
Yeah.
They aren't dead yet. It's going to take a lot, and it's going to take some help from the committee. But whoever they play in their bowl game, probably a New Year's Six game, we'll see if they have a new D coordinator by then, or if they've let go of Pete Golding by then, or what happens there. But yeah, I mean, 10 yards an attempt against a team where you know what they're going to do. And the last few years, Alabama's middle linebacker play has just been – it just hasn't been the same.
Yeah. Hasn't been bad, but it's not like I talk with people all the time, and we kind of not argue, but I kind of joke like, oh, Nick Saban built a guy like Kirby Smart. Remember when Kirby Smart was here, how dominant the linebacking core was, and it's still kind of dominant today. Well, let's just call it what it is. It is not the same as it used to be for Alabama's defense and the pass rush or the middle of the field type of play. And, I think in a way you kind of saw shades of that in this game. There were plays over the middle. Robbie Ashford was able to complete some good passes, credit to him. And, Auburn was still able to pick up some good yardage. And, an old school Bama team back when Saban first started, they wouldn't have allowed what Alabama allowed today.
No, when you have some of those middle linebackers, C.J. Mosley and whatnot that they've had, but it just hasn't been the same. And this goes back to even like 2019 when everybody got hurt in that linebacking core and they were so young. and they got torched by LSU, and they got torched by Auburn, and they got torched. But, it kind of came back to, well, these guys are all freshmen. They'll get better. This was kind of a, literally everybody. That came out of nowhere. This kind of came out of nowhere. And then they just never got, 2020, but then those guys are sophomores. So it's not like, they got, that was their time to shine. And in 2021, it wasn't very good last year at points. And then this year, it just hasn't been good enough. And that's why Alabama finds itself in the position it's in, where they're going to a New Year's Six, not a college football playoff. And why their defensive coordinator, I think, will be hitting the door soon. Or heading his way out. I don't know if he's necessarily going to get fired, but so we'll see.
I don't know. I know the past few years, Alabama fans, we've been calling for Pete Golding to be fired. I think a game like this is the reason why. This wasn't his worst, but obviously wasn't his best.
Yeah, and like we started open show, Auburn played a hell of a lot better than I thought they would. Cadillac has those dudes. They fight really hard, and they've won a couple games here recently. And if they had won today, they would have made it to a bowl game, which looked impossible when Harsin was there. Vandy might have made a bowl, and the only bowlless team in the SEC would have been Texas A&M, which is hilarious to me. But they fought hard, and they're he's not going to get the head coaching job. It appears, according to reports, that's going to go to Hugh Freeze, which, sure, that's a hire you can make. But credit to Cadillac. He got those dudes. He got them fighting, and good for them, honestly. And he's a guy you would hope Hugh Freeze or whoever the next coach is keeps around on staff.
Yeah. So can I ask real quick? We talk about, there's been a lot of talk about Alabama and some of the players and what's next. If this is, which I think it is, I think Bryce is going to go pro. I don't know if he's going to play in the postseason in the bowl game, but at the very least, this was like his last home game. Would you say the performance that he had, like, that's kind of how you want to close it out at home, right? Before you head off to the NFL?
Yeah, outside of the one pick where, I don't think it was a pick, but it didn't matter at that point at the end of the game. No, he's sensational. 20 for 30, 343 yards. Ran the ball really effectively. He looked healthy. 5 carries, 48 yards, and a touchdown. He looked like what he is, the best college quarterback in the country. And it's just crazy that Nick was able to get titles with like Jake Coker and 2 with AJ McCarron, and obviously he got one with Mac, and wasn't able to got one with Greg McElroy, but just wasn't able to get one with Bryce Young. That's just crazy to me. But no, that's how you want to go out. If you're a star quarterback like that, who's going to be a top 5 draft pick, probably a top 3 draft pick, QB1 coming out of college, potentially. Some people probably argue for Stroud. Morons will argue for Will Levis. But I think that's how you want it. I'm sorry, like, this is what they are. Like, Will Levis isn't that good. Whatever. We don't need to go into Will Levis. Check my Twitter account, PsychoZ50, if you want to see all my analysis of Will Levis. But no, that's how you want to go out if you're Bryce Young. Go win over your rival. You played a borderline perfect game. You missed a few throws here and there, but that's not the end of the world. Dominant win. Dominant offensive performance. I thought Bill O'Brien had a good game today. They ran the ball really effectively. And Auburn's defense has been pretty solid this year. So kudos to him on probably his last game, maybe second to last game as an Alabama offensive coordinator. Bryce had a wonderful game. And we'll see. We'll see if he plays the bowl game. I'm not quite sure. I never fault anybody for taking the bowl game off. We'll have to see. I don't know at this point.
Yeah.
What are you doing, goofy girl? Silly cat. Let me take this off so we can show our names a little bit. I guess what we can talk about next. Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at the stats, and Hunter, 11 carries, 134 yards, 12 yards a carry. Ashford, 17 carries, 121 yards, 7 yards a carry, 2 touchdowns. Just not good enough. It's not good enough if you take away their long, which Hunter's long was 45 yards. So you knock off, 45, and he's still got 10 carries for 89 yards. That's just not. It's just not good enough. And Nick would say that. Everyone would say that. It's just not good enough defensively.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think especially too, I mean, you look at some of the stats for Auburn, like for Auburn, the stats were not bad in some categories, but they are compared to Alabama. Like Auburn had 395 yards in this game. I think after the
rushing.
Season, yeah, and after the season that they've had, you look at a game like that and you think, holy cow, they've really turned it around. This is great. This is good. But then you look at Alabama, who's got 516, and you also look at Auburn having 2 turnovers, 21 first downs, not having time of possession, losing 2 fumbles. I mean, there were some stats in this game that you go back and look at and say, this is what cost Auburn the game. This is what kept them out of it. And this is what they wish they would have back.
Yeah, I mean, the game was never really close once we got into the second half. But here's a fun stat for you. Let me pull it up real quick. I lost it. That's annoying. From Mike Rodak, Alabama beat reporter for Al.com. Auburn's 318 rushing yards were the most by an FBS opponent against Alabama in the Nick Saban era, topping Arkansas 301 yards in 2007, according to College Football Reference. 2 of the 6 most rushing yards by a single player against Saban's Alabama defenses have come in the last 3 weeks. Quinshawn Judkins, 135, and Jarquez Hunter, 134. But Alabama did win both games. So, Cadillac might not he's probably not going to get the coaching job, but what a glorious day it's been for running the damn ball. So,
yeah, right.
Not a root for Auburn, but Cadillac seems like he was just having a blast on the sideline, and I can't help but root.
I like the guy, man. Look, if it were up to me at Auburn, like just because of the energy that he brings, I'd hire him right there. But obviously, they want a guy that not only brings energy but can win football games, and that's the question going forward is, can he consistently win? Can he consistently compete, recruit, do everything he needs to do as a head coach? And let's just be honest, it's probably a no.
Yeah, at this point, probably not. They should try to keep him around.
Yeah,
he'll get offered somewhere. Florida Atlantic just fired their coach, Willie Taggart, so he'll get offered a job somewhere. Just for this little stretch he's had at Auburn, he'll get hired somewhere. As more jobs get closed up, it looks like Auburn, we know who the next guy is going to be. Colorado's offered their job to Deion Sanders, so we're starting to get into hiring season. LSU and Texas A&M are tied at 7 in the second quarter. By the way,
interesting game there.
Boy, I look. LSU deserved to win the West. They beat Alabama. Fine, they've grown as a team. I am not looking forward to Georgia LSU. I just am not. I mean, that game. Like credit to them for making it. Brian Kelly's done a hell of a job, but I just am not. Purdue winning the Big Ten West actually makes that game a little more interesting. because Purdue does nothing but want to kill other teams' dreams, even though I think Michigan's safe unless they lose by like 40. So that'd be kind of funny, but good. Thank God it wasn't Iowa. Thank God.
Yeah. I mean, Iowa's got the defense, but Iowa's offense is probably one of the worst in the whole entire,
if not the
Power
worst.
5.
So thank you. Something I've never said before. Thank you, Nebraska, for winning that game.
Right.
You know, Illinois would have been fun. Like, just it's something different. Like, I'm sick of watching Iowa go to the Big Ten title game and lose. Like, Purdue's different. It's something fun. Illinois would have been different. It would have been a lot of fun. It's not your run Iowa and Wisconsin and, you know, Northwestern. So, you know, not to get too much into the Big Ten, but thank God. Thank you, Nebraska, for not making me have to watch another week of Spencer Petras in primetime. Oh, God, I'm losing it.
Yeah.
See how 10 is. Oh, gosh. Those are the worst ones. The ones that just like pop up on you. You don't think they're coming. No, we're not going to do that. I mean, what else do you want to break down from this game? You're in charge here, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, it was an Iron Bowl. You know, I consider it, you know, my favorite game of the year.
That's what you texted
Probably
me
the
this
biggest
morning.
rivalry.
I'm sorry I didn't get back to you. I was in and out of sleep until about 11:30 this morning. From about 6 a.m. to 11:30, I was in and out of sleep.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I consider the Iron Bowl definitely one of the biggest every single year. And no matter how the season's been for either team, hence, Auburn this year. I mean, Auburn, as much as they've struggled, they still found a way to get into the feel of the game, get into the rhythm of the game, and score on Alabama. And, you know, I credit them for that. You know, Robbie Ashford had a pretty good game, no picks. 77 yards. You want to have a lot more than that, but I guess I give him credit for having 11 of 23. There weren't really big plays for Auburn. It was more so maybe a turnover here or there that led to good field position and, you know, gave Auburn chances to score. But I mean, it wasn't anything special for them. I mean, it wasn't anything explosive and I'm not taking anything away from them. They did score 27, but a couple field goals here or there, a passing touchdown, you know, after a couple play drives. And, you know, I think, you know, what makes this game so special is when both teams are very competitive on the field. And even outside of the scoreboard, I think Auburn definitely competed in this game.
Yeah, we just keep going back to it, man. They fought really, really hard, you know, and credit to them for that. You know, that's when you have a game like this, you know, where it is, you know, I know they're having a disappointing year, but still a really good Alabama team, and they're playing a 5-6 Auburn team. They're fighting for bowl eligibility, but they're on the road against a top 10 team. You know, probably not. But all you can ask is they fight their tails off and, you know, make it a game for a half, 2.5 quarters. And and they did, you know. And then if I'm going to criticize Cadillac at all today, that field goal made no sense.
Which one?
Let me pull it up.
Didn't they try one from like 50 something?
That one's fine. It was 21-42. And on 4th and 9, I mean, they took a delay of game, so it's going to be 4th and 14, but it was 4th and 9, and they kicked the field goal. That didn't really make sense to me. You're down 3 touchdowns. You know, why are you turning a 3-possession game into a 3-possession game in the fourth quarter on the road? But, you know, whatever.
Oh, was that you mentioned they took the delay of game. You're talking about after they got into the fourth quarter and they just said, screw it, we'll kick the field goal.
Yeah, it was 4th and 9.
I mean, look,
they weren't going to go for it. They were going to kick the field goal anyway, and then they got a delay of game, and they just continued to kick the field goal. They weren't even going to bother trying going for it.
Right. I mean, that's one of those situations where the way I would view it is like you want to take risk in a game, like you just want to, and you want to put your team
especially
to the test.
especially when you're a
Yeah.
20-point underdog down 3 touchdowns on the road.
Right.
Like you might as well. Like, what do you have to lose? Like, oh, if you don't get it, okay.
So what?
Yeah. So what?
Yeah.
Like, there's a few teams this year that driven me nuts about that. Like, why? They're just, I don't. There are words I can't say, but like, why? Like, why are you just being so cowardly? But that'd be my only criticism of Cadillac today. He just didn't have the team, didn't have the talent to really compete for 4 quarters, and so, but that one made me like.
That was a head scratcher, basically. I mean, you had a chance, you could have done something risky, and I mean, the field goal really did nothing other than get you 3 points.
Yeah, it makes it look closer than it was.
Right. And they had 2 of those, really. I mean, you had one where they went up and got 24 points on the board. And then their next drive, they had one and they kicked the field goal again. So, I mean, there were 2 of those
moments. A little bit at least because of the previous field goal. Like, get it to 2 possessions and see what happens. So that one, I kind of get, but yeah. So, but that first one, I just didn't understand. Like, if you're a 20-point underdog, and not to, I don't want to harp on this for too long, but when you're a 20-point underdog on the road, I guess a top 10 team, in the fourth quarter, you should never be making equal possessions.
Right.
Like if you don't get the touchdown or you don't complete the 4th and 9, it's a 3-possession game. If you kick a field goal, it's a 3-possession game. Like there's no tangible. You just need 3 touchdowns instead of a touchdown with a 2-point conversion and a field goal. Like there's no real tangible difference. You still need 3. You still need to hit on 3 or 4 plays. So that didn't make any sense, but whatever. I don't want to harp on it too much because Cadillac had a better day than the guy that's going to take his job in maybe as soon as tomorrow.
Yeah.
I don't want to make fun of.
You think they call someone and hire him tomorrow?
Well, all reports are Hugh Freeze has been offered the job and he's mulling it over.
Okay.
And he's talked to. He's talked to Liberty officials about leaving.
Okay.
So all indications are he is going to probably take the job. But they lost today 49-14 to New Mexico State, who I just watched Mizzou beat by like 40 last week. So, is that performance partly because he has a foot out the door? Maybe. Losing to Jerry Kill's squad that way. New Mexico State have another game?
Yeah.
They're 5-6. Who do they got next week? Oh, San Jose State game was postponed. Oh, they can get to bowl eligibility. Good for them. So we'll see what they do with Hugh Freeze.
So I guess I know we pretty much have gone over this game, but like, what do you think is next for Alabama as they prepare for like a bowl game and not knowing their opponent and everything?
So I think what happens next is Bill O'Brien takes a job somewhere.
Okay, I would hope.
Like we talked about at the beginning of the show. He's had success. He did an outstanding job at Penn State when he was hired there after all the crap that went down in the early 2010s.
Yeah,
he did did an outstanding job just to kind of hold that program together, because that program, with the loss of scholarships, the loss of recruiting, the loss of all of this, they borderline death penalty, could have just fallen off the map. No bowl. They couldn't play in bowl games. And I think he got him to 7-5 and 8-4.
Yeah.
Which is, considering like before the season, we were like, oh, they're going to be like 3-9. And I was like 16, but I'm like, oh, they're going to be 3-9. Like they're going to be bad. And he did an amazing job there. He goes to the Texans. As far as a head coach, I think he did a fine job in the NFL. The Texans went to the playoff pretty consistently, won a couple playoff games. Behind the scenes stuff maybe have screwed him there. He was not a very good GM, but he's not going to be a GM. So I would be stunned if he gets a job. And I think he'd be fine as a head coach. I think he'll be fine. Whether he goes to like West Virginia or Wisconsin or, wherever he goes to be head coach, I think he'll be fine. So I think that's the next step. Will Alabama have a new offensive coordinator by the bowl game? I doubt it. But last week in the comments, people were bringing up like, well, what if, oh God, who was it? Joe Cox calls plays.
Oh yeah.
Whoever. And then we talk like, yeah, for a bowl game, like whatever, like probably not going to have Bryce Young. So you're going to have a Jalen Milroe, Ty Simpson, probably tandem, probably actually just Jalen Milroe.
Yeah.
And then you'll see so that'll be the next step. I don't know if they'll get rid of Golding before, or like Golding leaves before the bowl game. We'll see. I kind of think he will be gone before the bowl game, but I'm not quite sure. And then it's about hiring, and then it's about your quarterback competition and trying to retain the loser of your quarterback competition in not transferring, which tells me we probably won't have a starter named until like 2 weeks before the season starts.
Right.
Because that's just what you do when you have a quarterback which it will be a quarterback competition. Milroe is probably the favorite. I prefer Simpson, but Milroe is probably the favorite. But that's just what you do to keep both quarterbacks on board, and you don't lose one to the transfer portal.
Yeah. I guess we mentioned what's next for Alabama's obviously the bowl game. What I am hearing is that there are, I don't know if I want to say rumors, but there's a lot of speculation that Alabama has strengthened their case, quote unquote, for the college football playoff. I've called it quits and said we're not getting in, but being at number 7, LSU would have to, if LSU loses tonight, they fall
or lose next week, which they're going to.
Next week,
which they're going to.
Clemson, by the way, I think lost to South Carolina. So
they did.
I mean, what? So for Alabama right now, I mean, obviously they're playing the waiting game and the waiting card, but I mean, did they do their part tonight to maybe make a case to the committee?
I think they did their part. So what Alabama fans you have to be rooting for? You had to root for a win tonight, which they got. 2, you need USC to lose to Notre Dame.
And I like USC, though, this year, man. That sucks.
But you need to lose to Notre Dame or Utah next week, potentially. Utah, I think Utah. Because if Washington beats Washington State, it's Utah in the Pac-12 title game. You need them to lose to Utah or tonight to Notre Dame, and you need TCU to lose next week to probably Kansas State. Both of those things happen, there's a chance. Because for some reason, this committee just doesn't respect TCU. So so even with 2 losses or 1 loss, but not a conference champ, I could see Bama jumping over them. And then obviously if USC loses, Bama will jump over them too. So, there's still a chance, not a very high chance, but I mean, and even if one of them loses, you're probably looking at a competition between Alabama and Ohio State, which
Right.
Alabama can go, we lost 2 games on the road on the last play of the game. They got blown out in their one big game of the year. So there's definitely still a chance. What helps Alabama is Ohio State just getting its doors beaten off today in the second half against Michigan. That definitely helps because it's the biggest game Ohio State's going to play this year. They beat Penn State on the road. That's looking like a better win than initially thought. But, if you look at Alabama's schedule versus Ohio State's schedule, so
more quality wins.
Yeah. So I think I think there's a case there. It wouldn't stun me though if TCU or USC lose, because I think Michigan's a lock. Like, Michigan loses next week to Purdue, I don't think it matters. They're in. Georgia loses to LSU, right. It doesn't matter. They're in. So it'll be interesting. I'm counting on LSU losing next week, although last year I think everybody had Georgia beating Alabama penciled in, and then Alabama just killed them. So we'll see what happens. I mean, does Georgia show up for a game they don't need to win necessarily? Who knows?
Yeah.
See what happens on that front. Yeah, guys, join our Discord. Talk college football all the time. Sign up at patreon.com, as this isn't pulling up for me. Search Mark Rogers TV as you're listening to Alabama Postgame with the voice of college football. I'm Zach. This is Christian from Ballard Sports Media. Join our college football call-in show at the voice of college football, the main channel, Mark Rogers, at 11:30 Eastern, so 10:30 my time. Is Alabama Eastern time? I don't remember.
Central.
You guys are Central? Okay.
Yeah.
So 10:30 our time. Like and subscribe to the video. Share the video. I mean, this is going to be the last one we do before the bowl game. We might hop on if we're both free, if, Bill O'Brien were to take another job, or Pete Golding would be to let go, or he leaves. We'd probably come on here. We wouldn't talk for an hour about it unless we found enough things to talk about. We'll probably hop on here, do a bowl preview, and then we'll do some videos as the off season rolls around. So like and subscribe, share the video with your friends, and just talk. We'll talk Alabama. It's going to be an interesting off season. So it's not like we're going to be short of things to talk about come, the end of January, or even sooner than that, come the end of December. So it'll be fun. It's going to be an interesting off season. As Alabama does beat Auburn 49-27, third straight win in the Iron Bowl. Let's see how many. Yeah, third straight win. I was trying to do years, but then I'm like, well, they won in 2019 and they won in 2017. So saying 4 out of 6 isn't super crazy, but still. They've had a really big chokehold on this series. When's the last time Auburn won at Bryant-Denny? The Cam game?
2010. It's been 12 years.
The Cam Newton game, and they really haven't come close. 2012, I think it was 49-0. 2014 was a shootout, but I'm pretty sure Alabama won 49-31 or something. 2016.
2014 was only 11 points, I think.
Nah, that was the shootout year because that was the revenge game.
Yeah.
2014 Alabama football. Let me just look it up because I very easily.
That was a good one. I think it was 55-44.
It was. Yeah, you're right. 55-44. So a shootout. So I don't really remember if that game was close or not. I mean, that was my senior year of high school. So 2016, back at Bryant-Denny. You know, 41-27 looks closer than it actually was because I'm looking at a box score, 13-9 at half, and then it was 27-12 going into the fourth quarter. So, not really a close game. Whereas every game in Jordan-Hare is like to the wire, nail biting.
Yeah.
And then 2018, 52-21. Yeah, just in Bryant-Denny, Auburn just hasn't. In the COVID year, I guess the stadium didn't really matter because there weren't fans anyway. But what was the score in that year? I assume a lot to a little. Yeah, 42-13. Sheesh. So kudos to, just in Bryant-Denny, this series has been really one-sided since the comeback. Yes, folks, this is a blanket. I have the flu. I have the chills. I'm cold. I should be wearing a jacket or something, but yeah. So, but it just hasn't really been competitive at Bryant-Denny. Now, like you talked about, they go to Jordan-Hare, and you have the 20. You have the kick 6. Even 2011, I think, was close, or was that the?
I don't think so. 2011 Auburn was pretty bad. I don't think it was that close.
No, it was. I'm thinking of 2009.
2009, I remember that game. That was McElroy to Roy Upchurch, and I think it was like 26-21, 2, something like that. I think we won by 5, but that was what we called the drive, and we led this I don't remember how many yards, but we went down the field, and McElroy did like a quick slant pass in the end zone to Roy Upchurch.
Yeah, 26-21 that year. But you have the kick 6, and then you kicked the crap out of them in 2015. But then 2017 you lost. 2019 you lost. 2021 last year goes to 4 overtimes. So in Jordan-Hare, this rivalry is super fun.
It is.
Just not in Bryant-Denny.
That disappoints me. That should disappoint Alabama fans in some ways. I mean, because I really do think that the close competitive games what makes the rivalry so great. But yeah, now that I think about it, man, it's never really been that good at Bryant-Denny.
No, and that's normally how it is in rivalry games. Like, Michigan before today hadn't won in Columbus since 2000.
Yeah.
And they pull
normally the better team at home is like, we'll own you. And
South Carolina hadn't won in Clemson since 2013, and they won today. And so, that's just normally how it is. But yeah, full credit to Alabama tonight, especially on offense. Bill O'Brien, great game.
Yeah.
Drop your comments, guys, if you have any questions or thoughts about this game before, maybe we start wrapping things up a little bit so I can go to bed, to be quite honest with you. And by go to bed, I mean lay here and watch USC Notre Dame as I probably drift off a little bit. But, man, I've had better days, Mr. Ballard. I have had better days. Not as bad as yesterday. Yesterday, have you ever had a headache where it feels like your brain is coming out of your skull?
Yes.
I had one of those yesterday.
Not often, but yes.
All day. And I had a disgusting cough. You kind of heard me cough a couple times. And yesterday was worse. It sounded like a dragon sputtering. It was just like, and every time it would happen, my headache would just get worse. And it's not his fault, but my dog would just start barking, and because he would see a squirrel outside, and it would just make things worse. And I watched the Mizzou Arkansas game yesterday. I didn't even go down. I didn't even watch it.
Yeah.
In my living room, I just couldn't take the dog, and I sat in my room and just was like, I'm just gonna. I listened to it because I couldn't stare at a screen. So but so not as bad as yesterday. The fever went down too, which is nice. But we're not 101 anymore. We're at 99. So we're feeling better, folks. Hopefully we're better so I can go out Tuesday for the World Cup.
There you go.
Watch us beat Iran. Anyway, enough about my life and the disaster it's been over the last 24 hours or so. Or I guess 36 hours. How was your Thanksgiving, man? As we kind of wrap things up here.
It was really great.
On the SEC channel, we could talk about the Egg Bowl.
I didn't watch all of it. I I did catch some of the Egg Bowl. Mississippi State kind of surprised. Like, it wasn't surprising that it was close, but the way Mississippi State pulled it off over Ole Miss, I thought was most impressive, especially considering Jackson Dart had a really good game, and so did their rusher Quinn. There wasn't a lot of big rushing plays, but I guess give credit to Quinshawn Jukins for having 91 yards.
That game, and if there's any Ole Miss or Mississippi State fans, I love that game. Every year, there's something I've never seen before, and it's the stupidest game every year. And I mean that in the most loving way. Like, it is the dumbest, like, Ole Miss doesn't get like a fourth down or something, and Mississippi State drives right down, fumbles at the 2, and then after playing stout defense all night, gives up a 98-yard touchdown run. Like that, or 98 touchdown yard drive. And then they just don't get the 2-point conversion. Like that, it was this, you had the Elijah Moore fake, peeing in the end zone. You had the Bo Wallace fumbling as he's diving into the end zone. Just feels like maybe every other year, something iconic happens in this game. And it's just the dumbest, most fun watch ever. Going around the rest of the SEC, Mizzou beats Arkansas, ending Arkansas's disappointing year. Were top 10 and now finished 6-6 after losing on the road in Columbia. That was a tough one if you're an Arkansas fan. That's the kind of game where maybe you start to rework your staff a little bit if you're Sam Pittman. Kendall, apparently, according to reporters on Twitter, if Hugh Freeze does leave for Auburn, they're going to offer the job to Kendall Briles at Liberty. So you'll get a new OC. Barry Odom's defense, just a little, whatever. But, it's been a fun week. I love this weekend every year. I hate it and I love it. You know what I mean?
Right.
I hate it because it's the end of college football, where I just sit on my ass and watch college. Sorry for the language. I just watch college football from dusk to dawn. It started game day, and then I passed the Hawaii test at 2 a.m, and then I go to bed. And USC's up 10-0 in the third quarter, or early in the first quarter. Excuse me, 3 minutes left in the first quarter. But I also just love this weekend because even games you don't think are going to be very fun are fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
South Carolina Clemson today. Like, I didn't think that game was going to be very fun, and it was awesome.
Yeah, it was. I mean, that's what's so great about rivalry weekend is you just. I know we could go into games like Georgia Tech, and you could say you just know Georgia's going to win.
But Georgia Tech hung around for a little while.
That's true. But you also have
to give yourself some hope.
You also have games like the Iron Bowl, like the Palmetto Bowl, where you look at it and you're like, you know what? I might put some money on this game. Let's see what happens. And you just get an upset somewhere during the day. And it's like probably in the most unexpected way or to the most unexpected team.
Yeah, I mean, even in other games, you had Oregon State coming down from 24 against Oregon, like in the Civil War. That was right before we came on. I finished watching that game. That was super fun. I don't think anybody predicted that to happen in Columbus today. I thought the outcomes were Michigan wins close, Ohio State wins close, Ohio State blows out, and Michigan blew them out. So yeah, it's just one of those. It's just a fun weekend every year. If there's anything else you want to talk about, man, I'm going to wrap it up.
Nah, man, I think we covered everything. I mean, just again, another, even though they have 2 losses and have to wait for some crazy stuff to happen to make the playoffs. I mean, I think if they did anything to help their case, I think they kind of did it today. We saw the old Alabama that we expected to see this year in this game tonight. Maybe not defensively, but on the offense. I thought everyone showed up. I even thought the offensive line played pretty great. I know we didn't really talk much about that, but
the offensive line was fantastic tonight. The running game was really good tonight.
Yeah, I was excited. I was pumped up, and that's something that I didn't think to point out until now, man. That offensive line, it definitely helped Bryce out in so many ways. But all I got to say is great Iron Bowl, great win, and I guess what's next for Alabama? We just got to pull for certain teams next weekend and tonight and see how it all plays out.
Yep, and you can catch us here. When Alabama's bowl game does get announced, I'll probably text you if you want to do a video. Not maybe in a full, not like a full one, because it'll be that Sunday night, so not a full one like this. But or maybe like Monday or something, because Sunday I think I have plans that night, but I think I have to work. But we'll figure something out. Maybe Monday we'll talk about it. Unless they make the playoff, then I'll do whatever I can to get on with you that night. To talk a little bit at least, 15, 20 minutes, and then we'll do a bowl game preview because we'll have a month to do it. So it's just be lazy not to. We'll do a post game, and then we'll probably do another video like what to expect in the off season. As we got a comment from Diane, says Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
So we'll have a lot of content coming up for you guys, but Christian, if you're about done, I think we'll wrap it up tonight. I thought we had a good conversation. But I thought Alabama played really well. I thought Auburn played tough. But Alabama obviously was the better team, which is all you can ask for in a game like this. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up. You are listening to Alabama Postgame at the voice of college football as Alabama knocks off Auburn in the Iron Bowl 49-27. Like and subscribe to the video, folks. As we talked about, we'll be here for plenty of content over the next month. I mean, even as there are no longer games every weekend, to break down all sorts of stuff. And we're just going to have a lot of fun talking college football. It's always fun. And speaking of talking college football and having fun, join our Discord and talk college football all the time. Just have to sign up at patreon.com, search Mark Rogers TV, and talk with a bunch of nerds. And I mean that in the most endearing way, not on Twitter if you saw Albert Breer's tweet about calling Michigan fans nerds. And someone replied, buddy, your name's Albert. And it was funny. But yeah, join that. We'll have fun. You can have fun in there talking college football. And then, of course, join the Voice of College Football call-in show at 11:30 Eastern time or Central if you're, in my time zone here in St. Louis or down there in Alabama. Join and call that. Mark will break down all these games as we kind of head into the nightcap slate. I'm Zach. Christian, where can they find you?
You can find me on YouTube, Ballard Sports Media, a future sportscaster in the making. If you're on Twitter, you can follow me at Ballard Sports, and we also have a Facebook page, Ballard Sports Media.
And I am Zach Ramilius. You can find me at PsychoZ50 on Twitter. You can hear all my rants about the goofiest things, movies, comic books. That's how you spell it. I know. No, I spelled that right. Thank goodness. Nope, I didn't mean to hit that. PsychoZ50. It's an old play on if you watch college basketball. Tyler Hansbrough was Psycho T50. And I used to love him because he played at Poplar Bluff, which is like 2 hours from where I live. So I loved watching him. You can find me there. Thank you all for tuning in. Have a fantastic rest of your weekend. Alabama wins 49-27. And have a great night. Enjoy the rest of this rivalry weekend. We still got a few big games left.
Yeah, we do.
So more time. Have a great night and roll tide.
Roll Tide. We'll see y'all later.